Today I want to talk about how you can become a straight A student. I have a lot of young viewers of my YouTube channel, and a lot of them really want help with this. And it's really great that you do because first off, you realize that this is something that can be improved. A lot of people don't think this. They think that being good or bad at school is just something that's fixed into place and that can't be improved, which is not true. And then the second thing is that you actually care about improving. You're ambitious. A lot of people, adults and children, they just walk through life like a zombie. They sleepwalk through life and they don't really want to improve or care to improve at anything in their life. So it's great that you have those two fronts. And I want to start off this video by giving you some context on my progression with grades in school, because you might think, oh, you're Asian, you always were great at school, you're always really good, Asians are always good at school. And that's a very common misconception amongst European countries, because a lot of the Asians there have really good grades. Turns out that my grades used to suck, and I'm talking really bad, C's and D's. And let's start at the beginning of the story. Don't worry, it won't take that long. So when I was in about middle school, I was doing all right. I was getting mostly A's and some B's, and I was just taking normal classes like any other student was. And then one day, I took what was called at the time the gifted and talented class, which is it was basically a test that they would have once per year, and if you tested into these programs, you were placed in the highest level classes for your respective topics, whether it was math, English, and so forth. And depending on how you did, sometimes you'd be placed in the gifted and talented class for one topic, but not in another. And my parents were always pushing every single year for me to take this test. And I always would. I would do what I could to prepare for it. And each time I would not get in at all. And there were even like different levels. So there's gifted and talented, and then above average, they called it honors, which was one grade level above normal. And then there was normal. And gifted and talented was 2 grade levels above. And I would never get in, not even to the honors one. And so one day I took the test again, and boom, I actually did well. In fact, I tested in to all of the gifted and talented classes. Now there's obviously different topics, math, science, geography, and I tested into them all, and it was so shocking because first off, I thought my parents would be like so pleased, and they're like, cool, you got in finally. And I'm like, this is a very typical Asian American parent response. Like, they don't really applaud or congratulate or celebrate that, which I think is a problem. But long story short, it was way too much. I went from getting about like 2 homework assignments a night to getting assigned sometimes 100 pages of reading and like these project long, heaps of homework. And it was just so overwhelming that I shut down. I shut down and just let it flow over me. I was missing homework assignments left and right, and my grades dropped to the C and D level. And it was a very tough time for me. And for the next few years, I would say the next 2 or 3 years, I assumed this identity of C and D student. I got a lot of D's. And I went into high school, and this was how I lived my life. I still took a lot of gifted and talented classes because that level just kind of translates over when you hit high school. Some of the classes did drop down slightly, but I still took a lot of classes that were way too tough for me, and I assumed that this was how it was going to be for the rest of my life. I was going to be that kid who was Asian and yet doing horrible. Then I met my friend. I'm going to call him Bob. So I met Bob, and slowly but surely I started hanging around him more and more because this guy just seemed to know what he was doing. He was very focused, he had a lot of energy, he was hardworking, and he really cared a lot about school. It was all he ever talked about. And the best part was that he was very excited about the whole process. So I started hanging around him, and after a while, my grades started shooting up. I started taking more advanced classes, and by the time I finished high school, I was getting straight A's. I had some of the most rigorous advanced placement, highest level classes, and on top of that, my SAT score, which is the American Standardized Test score, shot up like tremendously, like I think over 400 points. And it wasn't luck, it wasn't just something crazy. It was certain mindsets, behaviors, and hard work that were instilled in me from Bob. It's not a fluke that some people do well. Some people are just, yes, they're naturally smart and they're geniuses and they don't have to do any work. But a lot of the times, behind the scenes, that Asian kid you think is just much better than you, he's putting in a lot more work after school when you're not seeing it. And so it's not just about hard work. There's certain mindsets and beliefs. So I want to share with you the 5 mindset beliefs and behaviors and tips that I learned from Bob that really changed my world and can really change yours. Let's start with the first one, which is hang around people who get it. You know, you could tell your future child, or you could tell yourself, you should just enjoy homework. And that's not going to work because you're still not going to enjoy it. But when I started hanging around Bob a lot, he really enjoyed the whole process of getting an A. He really enjoyed every single moment he spent doing what he did. And I started looking at school a different way. I just thought the whole thing was a chore. And he instilled in me something that my family couldn't or didn't, which was the whole enjoyment process of mastering this and getting that A. It wasn't a chore anymore, and that level of excitement rubbed off on me. So hang around people who really know what they're doing. You might not find someone as excited as Bob, but you will find people wherever you are who are the best at what they do at their school. Hang around them a bit more, see how they think of school, and you'll start seeing how they behave differently. Which brings us to number 2. Think of homework not as a chore, but as the easiest way to increase your grades. Homework is by far the easiest way to increase your grades because sometimes they're just handing it to you. They're alley-ooping it to you. They're literally giving you free money because some homework assignments are so dead simple and you get so many points for it that it just naturally increases your grade. In fact, sometimes they'll even give you the answers in the back of the book. Looking back, sometimes I would not do the most simple homework assignments. Like some math assignments, math is probably like the easiest one. They literally tell you, oh, just do these 5 homework assignments in the book. Oh, by the way, the answers to them are in the back of the book. I wouldn't even do them. And every day my math teacher would give me that disappointed look where I wouldn't do the homework when everyone else in the class would, and they were the easiest points you could ever achieve. The third thing is actually work to learn, not just to do. And what I mean by this is that, yes, you can cheat by just getting the answers in the back of the book, but that's not going to help you in the long term. You're going to be tested on this, and it's just going to get tougher, and you're not going to be able to just cheat your way to success. Instead, actually take time to learn. Don't just, when you're doing the homework assignments, actually learn why they take place. I just spent like 10 extra minutes every day actually understanding how to solve a math problem. And, you know, slowly over time, I increased it at a comfortable rate. So I spent more than 10 minutes, but I actually started learning why and how you solve the problems. So when the test came around, I knew how to do everything. So reviewing it was a cinch, and doing well on the test wasn't that hard. You know, some nights it would take more work and you'll spend, you know, more time studying, but it's so worth it in the long run. Fourth thing that you can do is actually have behaviors, habits, or routines. They're basically all the same word, so I should have just said habits that actually work to finish what you needs to be finished. Again, you'll see this when you hang around people who do really well in school. In conversation or at lunch, they will sometimes just mention how they're going to do things the rest of the day. Like, it's natural, it's their identity. And you'll notice that they'll say stuff like, okay, when I get home, I'm going to do this homework assignment, I have this history test, and then I'm going to study for this. When you hang around people who are horrible at school, they suck, they're getting D's, they don't even talk about school. And if they do, they never talk about homework. They're just like, yeah, I got this, I have these video games I want to play. They're always talking about like random stuff that they want to do. And of course, they fail. They don't do well, they skip homework, they forget homework assignments. But when you actually look at the people who do well, they have it in their agenda, they have it focused, and they have it planned. And these are tips not just for yourself, but your future children one day. And then the final tip is really just set out your day so that you make sure you have everything planned. When you hang around people who are straight A students versus people who are just, horrible at school, they have this whole different mindset and behavior to what they do. They have it planned out, mapped out, and on top of that, they have this whole process set out so that they know what they're doing when they get home. Oftentimes, they'll do it first thing when they get home. And what happens is they still have oftentimes free time to do other stuff. For me, I had all these other Asian, I know it's cliche, but it's true, Asian stereotypical activities that most other people in school didn't have. I had to practice piano for at least an hour a day. I had to go to this. I had Chinese school. And I even had soccer practice. And yet, despite all of that, and believe me, that's nothing compared to some other Asians that I knew who had like twice as much stuff. I knew this one Asian, he had basketball practice, soccer practice, and then on top of that, Chinese school, and then church, and then like all this stuff. And he was getting straight. I don't know how he did it. But for me, I still was able to do all that stuff and still have time for video games. And so you realize that you have a lot more time than you think. And so the point is, if you can master that time, again, there's plenty of time management videos and articles that I've written and other people have that help you with this. But if you just use some time management techniques, you can really master your time so that you get more done in less time and you don't drop the ball. So, what you see here is basically these people are setting out more time and doing it more efficiently, which gets more results. And whether it's through outworking the other person or just being more focused and strategic, they're getting more results than the average person. And if you take nothing else from this, the biggest tip I can give you is my tip number one, which is hang around people as much as you can who are getting the best grades. So maybe if you can't hang around the straight A student because maybe you don't get along or you can't get access to him, at least hang around someone who's better than you. And you will improve because you just notice how they think and behave and act and talk about school, because it will slip out during small talk at some point, at lunch or wherever else. And you'll see how they think and act about this, and it will slowly start changing how you think and act. And that's really what changed my life. And it goes beyond school. I think if you want to be successful at anything, hang around people who are more successful in that area. And just how they think and behave will rub off on you. See you guys later. Subscribe.